Hi, it's Laura. I want to share a fun little Etsy story with you today. If you didn't catch that, the fun was underlined with dripping sarcasm. Actually, it's not that terrible, but it will be hopefully informative for you. I mean, it is terrible, but because it's just a bad situation. Um, Before I get into that, I would like to acknowledge what I have going on back here. It's just a mess. I'm sitting on my floor to do this video. I have inventory all over the place. I'm trying to reorganize it, and it's at the point where it's a bigger mess than it was before. Um, Hopefully, it will get better. I'm not at the point where it's getting better yet. Anyway, I wanted to share this information about Etsy and their purchase protection program and my most recent experience with it, which wasn't great, but honestly, um, I don't know. We'll get into it. This is one of those situations where, like, there's not a great answer for anybody. Somebody's losing out here somewhere. So, a customer purchased an item from me back at the end of April. It was a $300 item and it was going to Italy. The shipping was something like 40 or 50 bucks. It was fucking expensive shipping. Just because it was, whether it was, I think it was like the weight of the package or something. It was a lot. So, sent it off. Cool. About a month later, the customer sends me a message that they haven't gotten it and it looks like it's being returned to sender. When I went through to look at the tracking, it's kind of hard. First of all, it's Italy, so it's the Italian postal system, and you can like translate the site into English, but it doesn't really give you much information. It just said something like addressee unknown, and then it said something about package being returned to sender. And I find that like with most countries, when there's an issue, you can usually track the package through that country's postal service using the tracking number that was generated by you when you printed the shipping here. Um, but a lot of times there's not a whole lot of information. And I think that's just all postal services, right? Like, so it'll be waiting in customs for the customer to come pick it up, whatever, right? If the customer never comes and picks it up at customs, because I think, they have to like go and pay fees. And I don't know, I don't order things internationally, honestly. So, um, but it doesn't really ever say like they just never showed up. It doesn't say we've sent them 5 notices. Like none of that stuff kind of happens. It just says like waiting, being held in customs or being returned, whatever. Um, so the customer told me that you know she thinks it's being returned to sender. I went and looked at the tracking. It said something about like item undeliverable, addressee unknown, and being returned to sender. That status was like a couple of days old and there were no updates. So she and I chatted back and forth. I think she was going to try and reach out to them and see if she was still able to sort of retrieve the package. I gave her the tracking number to use, and I'll get into more of that later about why I had to give her the tracking number that she didn't already have it. I mean, she did. She just didn't realize that she did. So anyway, she was going to go do that. I was like, cool, thanks. I wasn't really able to help her a whole lot because she's in Italy, you know. Um, so I don't hear from her again until another month later, June 26th. So at this point, we're about 2 months out from her purchase. And she said that she still never received the package. And, at this point, I haven't received it back either. And she said she was going to open a request for a refund with Etsy's, because Etsy has like their shipping, their purchase protection program, right? And I said, okay, thank you so much. Like I was glad that she gave me the heads up. Um, and I didn't offer to do anything on my own because I was like, cool, if Etsy's going to cover it, that's great, right? And there was part of me that thought Etsy might not cover it, but also might say, you know, like, well, we still have to wait and see if it's going to be returned to the seller or things like that. Like, I wasn't sure what the outcome would be. And I wasn't worried about it. Like, I think that if Etsy looked at the conversation the customer and I had, they would have not found anything wrong with either side of it, so I wasn't really worried. Um, that was June 26th. Didn't hear anything, didn't get notification of a case being opened. I didn't know if she just didn't open one. But whatever. I was kind of leaving well enough alone because $300, right? Anyway, all of a sudden yesterday, I get like 3 emails from Etsy. Case was opened. They decided in the customer's favor. They've taken money out of my bank account. So it's like, wow, thank you so much for for the advance notice on that. And so at first I was really pissed at Etsy. I'm going to be honest. I was pissed that they didn't cover it. And I was pissed at the short notice. I do think I'm still valid in being pissed at the short notice. There's so I understand why they immediately took the money out of my bank account. Like, I get that. I don't like it, but I get it. Um, I don't know why they wouldn't have notified me that a case was open in the first place, right? And they didn't reach out to me for any sort of comment or whatever, but I could understand that because, again, if you look at the messages between the customer and I, there's really no need to come to me to clarify further, you know? Um, and the reason that it wasn't covered, which I didn't realize initially, but it's because my package was too expensive. Etsy's purchase protection only covers items up to $250. And what that means for the customer, you know, they're going to take care of the customer because it's the customer, you know. But what that means is basically the purchase protection is kind of for the seller. It's saying to the customer, you're going to be taken care of, don't worry about it. But the $250 is for the seller because, you know, if I send something out that's worth $100 and it gets like lost in the USPS system somewhere or whatever, I kind of have that backup that Etsy is going to cover me, right? Um, but in this case, because the item was above their threshold that they had set, Etsy didn't cover anything, so that all came out of my pocket. I am mad because I feel like Etsy should have, I don't know, at least, I don't know, maybe had a conversation with me. Here's the thing: international packages, when they are being returned to sender, they can take forever, like really forever. And, you know, that sucks for the customer, right? But it also sucks for me. And I'm just like some tiny person sitting on the floor of her apartment in New Jersey, you know, trying to make enough money to pay bills every month. Um, and you know, so I would have liked it if Etsy had said, I don't know, whatever, I don't know what. But taking the money out of my bank account like instantaneously really sucked because like I look, let's just gonna say I don't have the kind of bank account where you can just like spontaneously remove $300 and everything's okay. You know what I'm saying? And thankfully, I had a kick-ass whatnot show yesterday, so I was covered. But it sucked. You know, like I was my high of having a great whatnot show was almost immediately plummeted because now it's like, oh, bye money. That was nice seeing you. Anyway, so um, the other thing that concerns me though about Etsy's purchase protection program is their reference to using Etsy shipping labels. So I had a friend a few months ago who had an issue with this thing, and she was talking to an Etsy agent um, about a claim for something, and she happened to have printed her labels on Etsy. And so the agent she was speaking to, I think in a chat bot thing, you know, had said, "Oh, it's a good thing you used Etsy labels because otherwise, like, it might not have been covered," or something along those lines. Like, made some, you know, like offhanded reference to, "Oh, phew, you purchased shipping through Etsy. Good, that's one problem avoided," kind of a thing. Like, they didn't outright say we won't cover it if it's not purchased through Etsy, but they were like inferring. When that happened to her, I went and looked up Etsy's the program and the requirements and all that. And at the time, it just said like, you know, upload valid tracking or purchase a label through Etsy. Okay. So I was like, yeah, well, you know, their own outline says that it doesn't say you have to use Etsy's shipping. So I feel like that's like the rep just not knowing what they're talking about, you know? Well, when I was going through all of this information yesterday and like looking at the program to try and figure out why they would have denied my, you know, like why they wouldn't have covered this for me. I don't want to say denied my anything. They took care of the customer. They just took it out of my pocket, which sucks. So I found some conflicting information though. The email that I received, well, I have to read them in reverse now because I can. So on Etsy's website, under the order eligibility requirements for this, you know, the purchase protection program, it says use valid tracking and or comma where available a shipping label purchased on Etsy. I don't like that where available, right? It's got and or, so the or makes me still feel like they're not totally committing to you must purchase a label on Etsy, but I don't like it's too vague. You know what I mean? They're leaving it too open to interpretation. The email that they sent me does say that, make sure you meet eligibility requirements, including ship orders within your state of processing time with valid tracking info or a label purchased on Etsy. It's just or, there's no and or. So I feel like Etsy is setting up to start requiring that you purchase labels through Etsy in order to be eligible for the purchase protection, which I think is bullshit. That they're trying to do that. Etsy makes money when you buy shipping labels from them, and I'm all down for people making money where they can, even Etsy. But with it, whatever. That's a longer conversation. But in this instance, fine. You're going to make money off of shipping, whatever. Everybody's doing it, but don't require me to use it. And another big reason I don't like using it is not just because it's more expensive. I can get it cheaper through Pirateship, but also I had a really negative experience with Etsy's shipping internationally, back in 2020. I don't remember what Etsy calls it, like their own international shipping, which was like global shipping program or something way too similar to eBay's program. But you would purchase the label through Etsy, you know, and it was cheaper. So if you're not familiar with these types of programs, basically when you ship something internationally, you can choose to just purchase a label that, is basically me shipping something to the UK, right? And so I go to like whatever the USPS, or I purchase a USPS label to ship it to the UK. That's one method, but a much more common method that's being used a lot, um, is this alternative service, which takes probably, I don't even want to say it takes longer. It used to take a lot longer. Now it's all pretty quick, and I think it's becoming much more normal. But basically, I purchase shipping from whoever, whether it's Etsy, Pirate Ship, eBay, whatever, they all do this or have this option. My package then goes to like a central hub in like Jamaica, Queens, or wherever it is. For me, it seems to be New York City, Jamaica, Queens. Then the packages there all get sent off to whatever country, right? And there's like a third party service that is utilized to perform this function, but it's way cheaper. So, a lot of times it's like $15, $16 to ship it direct, but it's like $10 if you do it through this method, right? So obviously, like saving $5 per package, yeah, it's fantastic. And a lot of times it's a lot more than that, depends on what you're shipping and all of that. So when Etsy was using this program, I don't remember what company they use, but the package that I shipped got lost. And I mean, it's kind of understandable. It was like early COVID, so there was still all the lockdown stuff. There were a lot of problems with overseas things taking a bajillion years, right? The customer reached out to me. Where's my thing? I don't know. I reached out to Etsy, and I said, look, I don't know where this package is. Can you help me? And they basically were like, yeah, sorry, we don't know. And that's it. And they kind of said, you can send the customer this website link, which was like a useless link, right? Because what happens when you ship through these companies is it generates a tracking number that's kind of like, here's the main tracking number, but that then breaks down into two components. There's like the US tracking, which is me getting it to Jamaica, Queens, right? So that's got one tracking number. And then from Jamaica, Queens to the UK would be a separate tracking number. So it can be confusing for a customer. It's confusing for the seller if you haven't looked at it before. And I think this was kind of the first time I was seeing stuff like this. I can't remember. I don't think I was really using Pirateship at that point. Maybe I was. I don't remember. But it was confusing. And I kind of like felt like I have a good grip on this stuff. And it was still like sending me all over the place. And so when I reached out to Etsy for help, they basically were like, yeah, send them this link, bye. And I was like, okay, this link isn't helpful. Like at this point, it's long enough ago that I don't really remember what was going on. And Etsy also was like not taking any accountability. They were not offering any solutions. They weren't saying, you know what, if it hasn't gotten there in 4 months, let us know and we'll refund. Nothing, right? It was just like, sorry. So it left such a bad taste in my mouth that I was like, I am never shipping anything internationally via Etsy ever again. So I use Pirateship. Pirateship has amazing customer service all the time. And I actually have, because of this whole debacle with this $300 Italy package, I got saw another pirate ship issue today that they helped me with, and they were just so good, you know. So anyway, I won't ship internationally for sure with Etsy. Sometimes I'll do like my regular shipping through Etsy. Sometimes I use Pirate Ship, you know. Um, when I ship internationally through Pirate Ship, I always purchase insurance. And this is because of the fact that that one package got lost, which, by the way, I think that one package ultimately got to the customer, but it was just like forever because of COVID, probably. But I always purchase insurance because I want to make sure that I'm covered, right? And it's really pretty inexpensive. Insurance for these packages is typically like $1.50. Like I think in this case for this $300 package, maybe it was like $3 for insurance. I mean, it was like nominal, right? And especially because I'm using this like cheaper rate, I'm already paying way less. So even with the insurance, my shipping charge is way less through Pirate Ship than it would be through Etsy, right? And then I don't have the insurance coverage through Etsy. So I'm definitely, if you don't already use Pirate Ship, like you should definitely sign up. They are wonderful. Um, so I submitted a claim today through Pirate Ship for the insurance. Now I will say that that was kind of a pain in the ass to do, but that's not really their fault because they don't provide the insurance; they just broker it. So the insurance is with, I think ShipStation is the insurance. So they give you a form that you have to fill out. The form is a little awkward because it's through their chat bot, and so you have to include like multiple documents that you have to upload, and so um, it just wasn't super easy for me to navigate switching like browser tabs, and then at one point like it lost my form entirely, whatever. So you needed to have the receipt for the item's value, so just the customer's original purchase receipt on Etsy, which you can just print from Etsy. You needed to have the receipt from your shipping, which it took me a little bit of navigating to find, but I was able to find the receipt on Pirate Ship, and get that printed out. And then any communication between you and your buyer regarding this issue. So I went to my Etsy messages, which you also cannot print. So I had to like do a weird copy paste into a Google Doc and make it a PDF. It was annoying, right? But ultimately, I got it all in there, and I submitted a claim. Will this claim be honored or paid out or whatever? I honestly am not sure. Um, the options for claims are basically missing mail or damaged. It wasn't damaged. It's kind of missing, but it wasn't like, I think they had two options for that: missing in transit and missing after delivery. Um, so because this is like missing in transit, like on its way back to me, I don't know if it'll be denied. I anticipate that they may come back to me and say it's not eligible yet because you have to wait X amount of time or whatever. I don't know. We'll see what happens. No harm in submitting the claim. I already am missing $300 from my bank account. So what are you going to do, right? What I do like about Shipsurance, though, too, is when you purchase the insurance, you have to put in the value of the item. So I didn't know this before, so I didn't do this. But when you put the value in, you can actually insure the cost of the insurance, the cost of the shipping as well. So again, in my case, the package was $299, $300, and then like let's say $50 in shipping. I can insure the package value for $350 so that I get paid back out for the shipping as well, which I did not realize. I'm used to USPS where they like kind of say just the item value or something, you know. Although I don't know why I didn't think of it. I also always, when I file a claim with USPS, I just put in the full amount for the item and the shipping, and they've always refunded me. I haven't filed that many claims, but they always refund me the whole thing, so it's nice. Anyway, I like that you can do that with ShipStation. I didn't do it this time, but I'll know for future to include that. Um, so we'll see what happens. With international packages, I've had a couple instances in the past where I guess people just didn't want to go pay the customs fees. So they never pick the package up from customs and then it gets returned to sender eventually. And I've had those packages come back literally like 6 months after the person placed an order. So that's why I kind of wonder if they're going to, like, if the expectation is generally that these things can take a longer time, you know? Um, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I don't know when I'm going to get an update. Could be like 2 weeks from now. So I recorded the video without having that final resolution, but we'll see. While I was in there looking for my receipt in Pirate Ship, I happened to notice a section because you have to go into like this reports section, and there was a report of shipping label like refunds. So, sometimes like you print a shipping label, but you end up not using it for whatever reason, and then you have to request a refund. And generally, when that happens, um, it takes about 2 weeks to get a refund because they want to make sure that you haven't used the label, like so that I didn't print it today, then request a refund, and then quickly go ship it off using that label anyway. They like give it 2 weeks to start tracking. Well, I noticed that there were 3 pending refund charges um, from December, all on the same day. I have no memory of what happened where I had 3 labels that I had to refund all on the same day, and I don't know what happened there, but they had never been refunded. They were still all like pending. And so I reached out through chat, and Pirate Ship was just like, oh, yeah, they looked at it. They're like, yeah, there was some weird glitch with USPS back in December. We're going to go ahead and just refund that for you now. Here you go. Right. And boom, done. Like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I love them. They're always like super helpful and just a great experience. I really do love Pirate Ship and cannot recommend them highly enough. Anyway, that's my little story about Etsy and their purchase protection. Just be wary of that. If you think it's something that you may utilize, maybe just purchase your labels through Etsy. I'm not going to do that. Here's the thing. I haven't had too many issues come up in general. I certainly don't get anything happening frequently enough that I'm going to stop shipping internationally or start getting my labels through Etsy. Like this is a rare occurrence. I don't think that the customer did anything wrong. Obviously, like the customer never received her package. The only thing that maybe the customer did wrong, and I don't even know if this is true or not, is maybe did not include enough address information for the package to be able to get to her. But I don't even know if that's what the problem was. That's just kind of an assumption on my part. She was very communicative. She was very patient. So, I don't think she should have been screwed out of like $350 for sure. I feel like I did all of the right things, and I don't feel like I should be screwed out of $350 either. However, this is just a thing that's going to happen on occasion, usually not with $300 items. Just super lucky that way for me. The other thing too is I really want the item back. It was freaking cool. It's like a 1960s like 2-piece like sort of evening gown set. It's amazing. It's like this hooded cape and then this like long maxi dress. It's gorgeous, right? It's crazy. Anyway, I want it back. I don't want it to be like lost in the ether, along with my $350. So that's it. I do still have a bad taste in my mouth with Etsy over this experience, but honestly, I think I'm just bitter that I am out money. Like there are things I think that Etsy could have done a little bit differently, but mostly it would just be to communicate more effectively with me. Oh, and also they pulled the money out of my account immediately because like they could put it as a balance due on your Etsy account, but people don't pay those bills, like they do have a process through which they used to have it where like you would have this balance sitting on your account. And then as you made sales, that would like lessen your balance. And usually it's just like you bought a shipping label and that makes a balance on your account kind of thing, But I guess in this case, especially for refunds, they're not taking chances. So fine. Um, you know, to be fair, that balance would have been sitting on my account until I made enough sales to pay for it via Etsy. And the way that my Etsy sales are going these days, that could have been 4 months. So who knows? That's it. Unrelated, I ran a 30% off sale on my Etsy store today, just for the weekend, just trying to see if it generates any sales. As of yet, shockingly, has not generated any sales. So I don't know if Etsy's going to be like shadow banning me because of this. Like I didn't do anything wrong, but who knows? So that's that. Anyway, I hope that you learned a little bit of, something from this experience of mine and you're able to use that information. Thank you for watching this. I will talk to you again soon, like in 3 seconds actually, because I have a mini haul I'm going to do for you. All right. I have a small update on the package that went missing for Etsy. The insurance claim was approved, which I was very excited by. I was a little bit nervous because I never really looked at the terms and conditions for the insurance before. I was just getting the insurance, but they do say that they require that your customer fill out an affidavit, essentially backing up that the item was damaged or missing, whatever your claim is. And I think if it was damaged, maybe they ask for proof, which totally makes sense, right? But In this case, for me, Etsy obviously had already refunded my customer, so she didn't really have any incentive to fill this out. Maybe she's just a really good person and would have done it so that I would not be out $300. I don't know. However, I find it notoriously difficult to get in touch with customers through Etsy's messaging system. I feel like they just don't ever see it. I think that when Etsy notifies someone that they have a message, that it probably goes into their spam folder a lot of the time. I know that when I get messages on Etsy, I mean, obviously because it's my business, I have things set up a little differently, but I get like app notifications, but I don't think that the general person shopping on Etsy has the Etsy app downloaded on their phone. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think she ever got the notification of the message in Etsy. When you make a sale on Etsy, you can see the email that the customer used. And while I don't like to use those email addresses to contact customers, I will do it when I have something. Usually it's because I have like an issue with the order that I have to communicate with the customer over. So I will send them an email regarding their Etsy order, and I try to make extra effort to make sure that the email doesn't look like I'm a weird spammer person. Anyway, so I did contact this customer via email as well, but I was getting like bounce back messages that the email box was full. So I suspect that this is an email address that she doesn't normally use, and it's just something that she uses for situations like this where she has to provide an email address but doesn't want any communications and things. So I was never able to successfully contact the customer for this. I did update Pirateship and say, like, I haven't been able to get in touch with the customer, blah, blah, blah. I was kind of afraid that they would deny the claim because of that. They did approve it. My suspicion is that they approved it because I had already sent them Etsy communications between myself and the customer, and like the Etsy communications with Etsy, that they had refunded everything already. So I'm assuming that they went based off of that because the customer's already acknowledged that she hadn't received this. And if you look at the tracking, it's like clearly just lost somewhere. So I haven't received the money yet because I opted for them to send me a check in the mail because there were no additional fees to do that. You just have to wait 827 weeks. But yeah, so it's covering $299. So I am still out about $50, which was the shipping cost. And that sucks, but at least I'm not out $350. They did tell me for I think it's ShipStation through Pirateship, when you when you buy insurance for that, you can purchase insurance that covers the cost of the shipping as well. So I didn't realize that. Honestly, I hadn't thought about it in the past. So I was always just putting in the item value. So now when I've bought insurance, which I always do for international packages, I am buying insurance that also covers the shipping cost, because usually the shipping cost is pretty hefty. It's not usually $50 hefty, but it's usually hefty for international sales. So I just wanted to give you that little update to the Etsy story. I am still annoyed with the way Etsy handled the situation. I don't like that they didn't send me a notification when the claim was opened, and I don't like that they immediately just, they didn't give me a chance to respond. And on the one hand, you can say that, the customer had, they could see the history of the messages between the customer and I, but I still would have expected Etsy to reach out to me. In my experience, a lot of times these international packages, things just take a really long time to be returned to sender and things like that. So, who knows? Also, because the client's address seemed to be what the problem was. It wasn't anything that I did. Sometimes it's nobody's fault. It's just the postal system. But in this case, it seemed like I was given an incorrect address, so I didn't know if that would come into play, but whatever. Etsy didn't give me a chance to respond. And now I know for the future to be more proactive about filing an insurance claim if a customer reaches out to me through Etsy, because I don't want them opening an Etsy claim and then having that automatically approved before I have a chance to, I want the customer to have some incentive to fill out this affidavit that they require and all of that stuff. But some good lessons learned in there. So thankful that I'm getting my package covered. So that's great news. I hope that this was helpful. Bye.